The book was better. Or was it? Hey everybody, welcome to Mainly Movies. Today I'm going to be talking about my top 5 movies based on books. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. Well, it's the first Saturday of the month, and we're back on track, so that means it's time for another episode of the Movie Nerds Club. This month, we're turning our sights to film adaptations, and specifically looking at movies that owe their existence to a book. After you watch my top picks for movies based on books, make sure you check out the videos of the other members of the Movie Nerds Club. Links to their videos are in the description below. Original movies are great, and even though adaptations sometimes get a bad rap, they can be good too. This month, we're celebrating adaptations by looking at movies based on books. As is often the case with our MNC topics, this is an incredibly broad and diverse topic. So many movies are based on books, many of which a lot of people don't even realize. With so many options to choose from, I had a tough time narrowing down to just 5, but I think the broadness of the topic will result in some pretty unique lists among the movie nerds. We weren't overly specific with the criteria this month, but for my list, I'm sticking with movies based only on books. So no plays, no short stories, no comics or graphic novels. And my selections here are indicative of my enjoyment of the film, rather than of the book, or the quality of the book to film adaptation. Remember, these are just my top movies, not the top movies, so be sure to post your own personal top movies based on books in the comments below. I've already reviewed some of these movies on this channel, so if you want to check those out for some more in-depth thoughts on each of them, I'll put links in the description below and also link them up in the cards as we go along. Alright, let's get this top list started. Coming in at number 5, Jurassic Park. This 1993 film is based on Michael Crichton's 1990 novel of the same name. Although the novel is more science fiction than anything else, this sci-fi action-adventure blockbuster is actually a pretty faithful adaptation. There are some changes that were made, mostly differences in some of the characters' personalities and ages, but the core story and themes are basically all still there. At its surface, Jurassic Park seems like an exciting dinosaur adventure story. And it is, and you could view it as just that. But it also presents an interesting and thought-provoking dilemma regarding scientific advancement and the applications of those advancements. Cautionary tale about genetic engineering and action-adventure blockbuster doesn't seem like the most logical pairing, but it really was here, resulting in a film that can be enjoyed and appreciated at multiple levels. And that's all just from a story perspective. You've also got some incredibly memorable and now iconic characters, some spectacular animatronics and special effects that still hold up today, and a brilliant blend of genres. There's a little something for everybody here. Sci-fi, action, adventure, comedy, horror. It runs the whole gamut while remaining a very engaging and fun to watch movie. The numerous sequels that this film spawned vary in quality, but this first movie never fails to entertain. Coming in at number 4, To Kill a Mockingbird. This 1962 film is based on Harper Lee's 1960 novel of the same name. Although some of the other books on this list are very popular, I think this is the one out of the 5 that most people have actually probably read, just because of its inclusion in most school curricula. I know a lot of people who had to read this in high school. I had to read it in 8th grade, but there's a reason. This is a very important book that deals with some heavy stuff in a surprisingly accessible way. And this film adaptation maintains that and presents it all in another medium. Much like the source material, this movie is a drama, with quite a bit of courtroom drama in the second half. It features a fantastic Oscar-winning performance by Gregory Peck, who plays Atticus Finch, a lawyer in 1930s Alabama who's defending Tom Robinson, a black man who's been accused of raping a white woman. So this story of racial injustice, class differences, gender roles is really compelling in itself and is still extremely relevant today. But it also has this unique quality that separates it from other courtroom dramas, because it's told from the perspective of Atticus Finch's 6-year-old daughter, Scout. So there's this multi-layered element of innocence to the story that also makes it a bit of a coming-of-age tale at the same time. Coming in at number 3, The Silence of the Lambs. This 1991 film is based on Thomas Harris's 1988 novel of the same name. Although both the novel and the film represent the most well-known Hannibal Lecter story, The Silence of the Lambs is actually technically a sequel, with the character of Lecter having been introduced in Harris's 1981 novel Red Dragon and its 1986 film adaptation Manhunter. But in spite of that, both the novel and film versions of The Silence of the Lambs are capable of standing on their own, and especially in the case of the film, is arguably more effective that way. Everybody has those stories and films that, for whatever reason, are just right up their alley, and The Silence of the Lambs is just one of those movies for me. I've seen it dozens of times, and even with knowing exactly what happens, this film is endlessly interesting to me. It's a psychological thriller with some horror elements, but it's also a police procedural crime drama. It focuses on Jodie Foster as Clarice Starling, who's an FBI trainee as she's trying to help solve a serial killer case. And in order to do so, she repeatedly interviews another serial killer, Hannibal Lecter, who's in custody. It's a dark, frequently creepy movie with a captivating story and some excellent performances by both Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins. Coming in at number 2, Misery. This 1990 film is based on Stephen King's 1987 novel of the same name. Well, if you know me at all, I'm sure you were waiting for the inevitable inclusion of Stephen King in this list. He has written a lot of books, and a lot of those books have been adapted into films. As big of a fan as I am, I'll admit that many of those films are a bit subpar, not just as adaptations, but as films in and of themselves. But there are some that are great, and Misery is one of them. There are some changes, something that's necessary given the structure of the book, but this is one of the most faithful adaptations of a Stephen King novel. The central plot here is remarkably simple, but I think that simplicity is part of what makes it work so well. For the most part, this is a single location, two-character story, with an easy-to-follow but terrifying psychological situation. Stephen King's horror stories often incorporate supernatural elements, ghosts, zombies, spirits and possessions, but Misery is different. It's real. It's something that feasibly could happen, so it's an entirely different kind of scary. The story and its inherent tension are excellent, but what really makes this movie so good and elevates it to the level it's at is Kathy Bates' performance as Annie Wilkes. She won the Oscar for Best Actress for this performance, and deservedly so. She's superb here, delivering one of my all-time favorite performances in any movie. So that means my number 1 movie based on a book is The Shining. This 1980 film is based on Stephen King's 1977 novel of the same name. Yep, we've got a Stephen King twofer on this list, though honestly, what did you expect from Mainely Movies? So of the films on this list, this is my favorite, hence the number 1 spot. But trust me, the irony of this film's placement on this particular list is not lost on me. We were just talking about one of the most faithful King novel adaptations with Misery, and here we've got one of the most unfaithful. This movie is very different from its source material, and while I like both versions, Stephen King hated this movie so much because of all the changes that he ended up writing and producing his own miniseries adaptation in 1997. I'll admit that some of the changes Stanley Kubrick made here irritate me a bit too, but the film still feels very cohesive, even without some of the more overtly supernatural elements of the book. In fact, I think keeping this a purely psychological story was an extremely effective route to take. It's not so much a supernatural ghost story as it is a cautionary tale of a man's descent into insanity. Jack Nicholson delivers a fantastically unhinged performance here, and in addition to that performance and the story, this film features some of my favorite cinematography. There's some visually striking symmetry found throughout this movie, and those tracking shots, well, they're not to be overlooked. Alright, so there you have it, my top 5 movies based on books. What are your top movies? Be sure to post your own ranking in the comments below, and don't forget to check out the pics of the other members of the Movie Nerds Club. Remember, I've already reviewed some of these movies, so you could check those videos out for some more in-depth discussion of each, as well as my ratings, pros and cons, and even tailored film recommendations. Also, if you're interested in buying any of these movies, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you'd use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information out of this top list, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe while you're at it to see more videos like this, as well as movie reviews. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.